Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Nordic Football Podcast. We're back, and we are coming at you straight after the last episode, back-to-back weeks, which is nice. A nice start to the new season, so you can expect us in your ears quite a lot this campaign coming, hopefully. And we're going to have an episode this week talking about the result of the Molde Hoffenheim game, and then we're going to dip into the Swedish Cup, and we're going to look at some few transfers as well. So it will be a shorter episode this week, but we thought we would give you a few updates from the wild world of Scandinavian football. And I'm joined, as ever, by my colleague, Steve Wyss, my good friend. How are you today?
Jonathan, my man, how's it going? I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it feels like yesterday since we last talked. Can't believe we've got a new episode back to back so quickly at this time of year. But it's good to be back again. And yeah, I'm doing absolutely fine. Doing fine. I hope you've been keeping well.
You wait 2 months for a conversation with Steve Wyss, and then 2 conversations take place within 1 week. It really is a pleasure. And yes, of course, we've had a game. You know, this isn't just idle chit chat. We've had a match to analyze, and it's a pretty big match, the biggest match of the season. You could argue in Scandinavian football from a Norwegian perspective, certainly. And that was Molde Hoffenheim. We had a big preview of it in the last episode with Archie Rintut, the popular German Bundesliga covering journalist for ESPN, and we're going to break it down now, aren't we? It was an interesting game. I'll let you sort of give the timeline of the match, the score, and all that kind of stuff, Steve. So take it away. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, how long have we got? Because there's enough here to last a whole episode, which is just as well, because I think most of the episode is going to be about this game. But I can't believe this match. It was... The final result was Molde 3, Hoffenheim 3. Match took place in Villarreal, down there in Spain. And, I mean, many times during this tie, I thought it was done. As in, Hoffenheim have got this tie in the bag, and it's sewn up nicely because they roared into a 2-0 lead. Molde pulled one back right on half-time. Christoph Baumgartner made it 3-1. There was an abundance of missed chances, including a penalty miss. At 3-1 up. Molde then scored 2 goals in the space of 4 minutes, including a debut goal off the bench for David Datro Fofana, who we're going to talk about later. And the match ended 3-3, and it was a wild end that probably either team could have won it, actually. So this was one of the most craziest games I've ever seen. I don't know what the actual XGs were. In terms of shots, Hoffenheim outed Molde 25-9 on shots, but in terms of big chances, certainly in the second half, I mean, they both had opportunities. This was a wild game of football. You could not take your eyes off it, and it was crazy. I just couldn't believe what I was watching, Jonathan.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the pre-match conversation last week, you mentioned that you did predict a lot of goals, didn't you? I think you said 7-3 on aggregate. So you're 1-4-0 away from.
It's still alive.
You're 1-4-0 away from the greatest prediction ever to be made on a podcast, I think. So you clearly expected goals, and it was full of goals. Molde went into this, and you mentioned it was played in Spain. They've had pre-season to deal with, no real competitive matches for a month or so. A good few months, in fact. Did they sort of surpass your expectations? Was it lucky, or was it kind of, did they match Hoffenheim? What was your general overview of it?
I think they were very lucky to get out of this with a draw. Hoffenheim, I kid you not, they could have scored probably 8 or 9 goals, really. And at the start of this match, it was obvious exactly what I thought. Molde were just too rusty. They let Hoffenheim dominate them. Hoffenheim looked quite good, to be honest. They asserted their technical qualities on the game. I was impressed with Hoffenheim. I wasn't at all surprised to see them win, I think, 4-0 at the weekend in the Bundesliga against, I can't remember, Werder Bremen it might have been. And they killed Molde. They kept putting crosses in on the right-hand side. They couldn't deal with them. And De Boer, the Israeli striker, he's the lad who got on the end of them. And as I say, they just could not stop that supply line coming in. I didn't particularly think Christopher Haugen on the left-hand side defended particularly well. He didn't have much help either on that side. And they were being rinsed. And there's another striker up front for Hoffenheim called Elas Bebu. And honestly, he's more like sort of a target man, hold-up striker, but he had chances. His finishing touch was horrible. It was donkey-like. And, if he had taken his chances at 2-0, it could have been 3 or 4. And, Molde somehow pulled one back before half-time. I think it was Martin Ellingson from a corner. And then there was like 5 minutes added on at the end of the first half, and Baumgartner made it 3-1. There was a bunch of VAR. VAR I wasn't impressed with in this game, by the way. Just not because of the wrong decisions or anything, just the sheer length of time it took some of the decisions to make. It was ridiculous. Just on some very easy calls, it was taking 3, even 4 minutes to make the final determination. So, 3-1 half-time, I thought Hoffenheim were well in control. And Molde did not look good.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned there, Munis de Boer scored the first 2 goals, and they're both headers when they both crosses, 7th minute and the 26th minute. Ellingson pulled one back with a left-footed shot in the 40th minute. And then, as you mentioned, a few minutes later, just before half-time, Hoffenheim went up and made it 3-1. Baumgartner with a quite a slick finish. A 3-1 half-time, you're probably thinking game over, aren't you? You're thinking maybe this could be 4 or 5?
Yeah, I was, and to be honest, it should have gone that way, because from half time until the 65th minute, it was pretty much all Hoffenheim. They had a goal disallowed. De Boer looked like he got his hat trick, and they had it was a tight offside on VAR. It was the right decision, but and then there was a penalty, a stupid penalty given away, 62nd minute it was, and when Munis de Boer's standing over that penalty, you're thinking, this is it. This could lead to any number of goals. And funny enough, the commentator actually said he's a very bad record from the penalty spot. He's missed something like 8 out of 20. And and Andreas Linde has actually really done very well against penalties in the last 12 months for Molde. I don't know what's changed with him, but he's become this penalty stopper. He's really good at reading pen takers, and he came up with a really good save, actually. I wouldn't say De Boer bottled the kick or anything. 3-1. It looks like it's going to be 4-1 all day, doesn't it, on the penalty spot? Even then, I was like, hold on a minute. They're still 3-1 down. They're in massive trouble. But there were some good substitutions made, and they somehow got themselves back into the game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because it should have been game, set, and match. Yeah,
Oland Anderson scored in the 70th minute, as we just mentioned there. To get them back into it as a cross from the right, wasn't it? And the headed home. And then your man, and we talked about him last week on this podcast, didn't we? I asked you about him, and you said you'd never heard of him, which was fair enough. He just came across my radar for some reason when I was looking at the squad lists, to be honest. David Datro Fofana, I like his name. He's a young talent, and he slid in at the 74th minute, didn't he? And put a left-footed shot in the penalty box to rescue rescue the tie in terms of the match result for Molde.
Yeah, Erling Moon made a couple of good substitutions just after the penalty miss. Erling Knudsen came on, and David Datro Fofana came on. And it was interesting, the commentator described him. Apparently, he's been known as the Ivorian Mbappe. Now, obviously, this commentator had done a lot more research into the player than I had. But apparently, in France, Angers were very close to signing him in January. You might have even mentioned this on the last episode. So clearly he's well thought of, and you can see why, because he's got a physical presence. He's only a young player, by the way. He's how old is he? He's 18 years old. So it's a young player. He looks like he's got a good physique to him, but good technical qualities and pace as well. It was a good finish. The ball fell to him. I think there was a defensive missed interception. It fell to him. He got to put it away. It wasn't that much of a hard chance, but it's still one. Only, you Molde debut, you're only 10 minutes into it, and he came up with a good equaliser, and he could have won them the match. He launched through onto a through ball, and he used his pace really well. He just didn't pull the trigger quickly enough, and the defender managed to make a last-ditch sort of block on him. But I was dead impressed with what I saw, and I think he's going to be an absolute handful this season. He looks like a tremendous signing.
Yeah, and he's one to keep an eye on, and I'm happy to say that it's good to know that you actually listened to what I said on the podcast, because you just mentioned there you can't remember what I said. So fair play. But there was one other big name to talk about, wasn't there? And that was, as described on the Molde Twitter account, Super Linde in capital letters. And a lot of praise for Linde. He even made the UEFA Team of the Week, Europa League Team of the Week, alongside some other big names, including, big players like Bruno Fernandes. So what was your analysis of him? He seemed to have played quite a central part in this match.
you know what? A few people put Andreas Linde as their goalkeeper of the year in the team of the seasons for Elite Serie in 2020. I wasn't having that personally. I didn't think he had that great a year, but this was an example of why people did put him. Certain people did put him in this team because, you know, the penalty save was impressive. He saved about half his penalties faced in the last 12 months. He's actually faced more than you would think of. He would at a big club like them. He saved them in the penalty shootout against Karabag, which got them effectively into this knockout round, or certainly helped them getting into the Europa League group stages. And, you know, not just, he made some big saves as well from Hoffenheim. When you got 25 shots against you, you know, he's obviously helped them out massively. Without him, they probably would have conceded 5, 6, 7 goals. I actually thought in the last 15, 20 minutes, the Hoffenheim goalkeeper, Baumann, made a couple of good saves too, by the way. But, Linde really, you know, he's developed as a goalkeeper. He almost goes under the radar a little bit, actually, for sure. And, you know, in the title-winning season 2 years ago, he missed half of that campaign. And I think he kind of lost a little bit of credit for that. And people are like, all right, you know, he's in a very good team. You know, that's one of the reasons why he's kind of got this bigger reputation. But I think he's kind of proved himself in the last 12 months that he's more to him than that. And he played very well. And his heroics have helped them stay in the tie. It's 3-3. All they have to do is go to Germany and win by, say, 1-0, and they're in. They're into the next round. I mean, it's not...
Yeah, and Erling Moe came out and after the game said it's 50-50 game now. We did not cope with the pace, and we did not do what we're supposed to do in the first half. We seemed unprepared when we do not do as we should, and I'm very unhappy with that part of the match. But he did express that he was happier with the end of the match, of course. So, you know, in the classic cliches, I guess this was a bit of a game of two halves from his point of view. Very briefly before we wrap it up, you know, the second leg's coming. How do you see it developing? Hoffenheim is still unbeaten at this point in time in terms of the the stage of the competition. They haven't been here for a while, but how do you see it going?
Well, they've got injuries galore, Hoffenheim. That's their big problem, as we discussed with Archie. I think another lad went down in this match, Mijat Gacinovic. I don't know if he played the weekend, but I mean, they beat Werder Bremen 4-0. They look good to me, Hoffenheim. I was quite impressed with what I saw. They've still got some very big players out there, like Baumgartner, Dabur, obviously. This Bebu, although he was missing chances, he was just a real handful physically. He was getting all sorts of space. So I'll be shocked if Hoffenheim don't go through. I expect them to show their authority here. Something like 3-0, 3-1. Molde probably got a goal in them somewhere because Hoffenheim are the sort of side who seem to make mistakes. But they're going to have enough offensive firepower to get themselves through. I'll be shocked if Molde manage to qualify, but you never know.
There you go. The game is this Thursday, and it will be an early evening kickoff, 5 to 6 UK time. Tune in and see if Molde can carry the flag for Norwegian football. It would be some achievement if they were to pull this one off away from home and go through. But you never know. You never know, do you? So a nice breakdown of that game there, Steve. And let's move on to a few other talking points in Norwegian football. Then the first place we're going to move to on this podcast, it's going to be a short episode. We're not having a huge episode this time. We say, but you know, we've always said that, and then next thing you know, it's an hour and a half maybe. But we're going to talk about Brann, aren't we? Because there's been a few developments at the club this week or today even that are quite relevant maybe for their season and maybe even their immediate future, their medium-term future. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we wouldn't really probably have time necessarily to talk about something like this in detail. But the Brann sports manager, Rune Soltvedt, has basically resigned from his role. He's going to be leaving the club at the end of the month. This is someone who's been with the club in this position for the last 6 years. So, sports manager, big part of the recruitment process, you know, the upstairs part of Brann. And, you know, their recruitment is something that's come under fire for the last few years, certainly. And clearly, maybe the club can move into a different direction now with someone. You know, I think at times they have made some good transfers, but the actual overall strategy, certainly in terms of losing players at the wrong time, hasn't helped them. And, it's obviously a big role in clubs. It's not something that's talked about enough, really. You often say, about clubs, they've brought in the wrong player here, and the manager's often blamed, isn't he? It's like, he signed him, he signed that. It's actually often done in, behind the scenes with someone else completely. So, this is it'd be interesting to see which direction sort of Brann go from here on in, and whether or not they will have a new sort of strategy in terms of transfers going forward.
Yeah, and you've mentioned before that you kind of look at Brann as a team that's maybe drifted a bit, a huge following. They're a big club, aren't they? And they did challenge for the title about 2 or 3 years ago, didn't they? With Rosenborg, but they eventually petered out. What you with the change of direction in terms of sporting director? I mean, I don't know if they've announced a replacement, but have they announced a replacement?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, I mean, this is something he actually said in his resignation. It was tough to get into the role of sports manager because there is no sports manager school. I've made mistakes, but I've also done right. It is a job with an incredible number of choices. By experience, in my opinion, that the club has better foundations today than it was 6 years ago when I took charge. And I kind of agree with that, actually. Remember where Brann were 6 years ago. They were in the Obos League, I do believe, or around that sort of time. Anyway, they come back in. They've had 2 silver medals. That year, I still think they could have won the title that year against Rosenborg. So they have been some right things, but they have drifted as well, certainly since then, and just become a bit stale. And if you're not careful, you can really get into trouble doing it this way. So, this is a resignation. I don't know whether there's a bit of mutualness in there as well. I'm sure behind the scenes something has led to this. And, it's a chance for them to... I've always said they maybe need to look a little bit sort of younger at times and give prospects from the lower leagues rather than certain transfers from abroad.
Yeah, now I'm looking at their transfers for this current window, and there's one transfer I'm going to come to in a second that it's caught my eye here. But in general, they've signed John Goodney Fjorlison from Krasnodar, free transfer, 31-year-old. Signed a player called Matthias Rasmussen as well, who is a left back, I believe, from where does he come from? Nordsjælland, and 1 or 2 others, a few loans and things like that. I think Sanders Svensson. And there's a young lad they've signed called Munga Simba, who I actually really like in the 3rd tier. We'll come on to that conversation in a bit because we are going to talk about this emerging trend in a bit more detail. But what's your analysis of Brann's transfers over the last, over this period? Obviously you mentioned the guy's been in the role for quite a while now. But what's your analysis? Fjorlison actually has gone straight out to Hammarby, by the way. He returned and then left. But what's your analysis of the transfers that have come in and out of Brann over the last maybe say 2 seasons?
I think the problem is they've lost players and never really replaced them. For example, Sivert Nielsen in centre mid there. And I also think they haven't necessarily brought in the right players for the type of football they were trying to play. And like, for example, Doda Bamba at time, when the transfer was made, you're thinking, this is a pretty astute deal, actually, a good deal for them. But he's never really fit. He certainly didn't fit the Larsson and Nielsen style. And I think that's kind of been a similar theme for Brann over the last certainly couple of years, that players have come in that they're not bad players necessarily. It's just they haven't fit the Brann system. Obviously now they've had a change of coach and everything. And I think everyone needs to be singing from the same hymn sheet, really, Jonathan. And maybe now there's a chance to do that. It feels like people have been in the club have been operating at different angles, and ultimately that can lead to problems, can't it?
Yeah, 100%. And, we'll keep an eye on that and see. I mean, if you were giving a prediction, maybe just a very urgent based on the business, where are you pegging Brann at this moment in time? Have they got work to do? Do you see them mid-table? Do you see them top of the end of the table? Do you see them bottom end? Where are you? It's very early, but just, licking your finger and waving it in the air. Where are you? What's your temperature gauge?
8th.
There you go. You can never accuse Meat Man Soccer of not getting straight to the point. So 8th it is. And let's move on. We have a transfer that you wanted to talk about before we move to Sweden, and that is a deal involving Lillestrøm.
Yeah, now, in the past, Lillestrøm haven't really been talked about enough on this podcast, so it's my sort of New Year's resolution to talk more about Lillestrøm. So here we go. Paul-André Helland has moved to Lillestrøm. Now, Lillestrøm obviously got promoted back from the Obos League again. It was a shock relegation, wasn't it? But this is, I think, an interesting signing. Apparently, he could have obtained much more riches had he moved abroad, but he's decided to go down to Oslo, the Oslo region, and join the Canaries of Norway. And look, I've always rated Paul-Andre Helland as a player. He's a fantastic player. His big problem is injuries, and I just wonder. Remember, Lillestrøm's pitch is grass, and it might actually suit him. I mean, if you've got injury problems, I think artificial can be more of a problem for you than being on grass surfaces. So that in itself might help him out moving to Lillestrøm. If they manage him correctly and get him on, he's very good on free kicks, set pieces, things like that. And I think he'd be good in the dressing room if he's got the right attitude. He's got technical qualities. It's an interesting move that he's gone to a promoted club. So I think it's a really exciting move for the Lillestrøm fan base. He's a big name player up there, and if they can keep him fit, it's a cracking signing for LSK.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. And you know, like you said, you're going to talk a little bit more about them this season, which is, you know, we'll see how that goes. So, has there been any other transfers that you caught your eye at Lillestrøm?
So they've got Yemen Assen as well on loan. That's from Rosenborg. So they've raided RBK, and you know, I think Assen's another player. He's got great potential in the right system. I'm going to be interested to see how these players get used. But already Lillestrøm coming up, and I think they want to make this point. We don't want to be flirting with relegation. We want to come back up, and we want to be sort of back to challenging to mid-table where we should be. And I like to see that ambition. Sometimes teams going down, it can do them good. If you come back straight away, you learn your lessons from the mistakes. You did Brann, it happened to them, and they learned the lessons of the mistakes. And I think Lillestrøm, you know, it looks like they might be an exciting team to talk about, rather than the last sort of 2 or 3 years they were in the Eliteserien. And one of the reasons we didn't really talk about them because nothing was really going on there. There was nothing, they were just boring. And you know, I think there's hopefully a bit more excitement now at this club, and I'm looking forward to watching them.
Yeah, and do you know if you just gave your prediction for Brann there? I mean, you may want to give your prediction for Lillestrøm now. You know, based on their summer business, where are you? You know, whistle in the wind. Where are you seeing them at this moment in time, based on what you've seen so far?
I think they'll be not far off Brann's level, maybe 9th, 10th. You know, it could even be a dark horse for the top half if they continue to sign well.
Fair enough. And of course, these predictions are liable to change. There's a long way to go yet. We still got a good month minimum before the season start, but a nice little prediction there. And given that we've got Fantasy Premier League coming soon, I've seen in the last couple of days a few prices are starting to be announced and that kind of thing. The new fantasy football season will be launched soon in the Eliteserien. Could you name a player to keep an eye on for Lillestrøm and Brann that maybe anyone listening who, with a fantasy persuasion, might want to keep an eye on it? Or is it Paul-Andre Helland? Should he be in your fantasy team?
I would be leaning more towards Yemen Assen at Lillestrøm, to be honest, because he's likely to be on the field more. Like Helland is going to be game managed. He's an injury risk, so I would never really pick Helland unless I know he was in superb form and guaranteed to be starting. So I'd be leaning towards Yemen Assen. I've not really looked at any of these prices yet, to be honest. So I think come back to me in a few weeks when I've had a proper look, and I will have some good suggestions. But it's good to see everyone's getting really excited about it. I've seen a lot of tweets about the Eliteserien fantasy, and I think it'll be another year where we get a lot of involvement up there. And you know, it's been exciting. I've had a good record there the last 2 years, so I'm hoping to stay in the top 500 again.
Yeah, and last season, of course, anyone who has followed us for a while will remember Meatman Soccer put out some brilliant YouTube analysis of the Eliteserien fantasy, so you will want to keep an eye on that. Nordic Football Podcast Twitter, and YouTube. So check Nordic Football Podcast on YouTube. You can go back and look at some of the breakdowns that he put together, which were quite extraordinary. And so, you know, we may well be bringing some of those back in the weeks to come. I think that's pretty much it for part one, and we're not even gonna have a break, are we? Because we're gonna sort of, it's like a tennis match. We're gonna sort of run off to the side, have a quick sort of glass of water, some squash, and change ends. And you're going to be the host, and I'm going to do Sweden. So let's do that quickly.
Whatever you do, don't look back at the Buda Glimt video, because I basically said my advice was do not get anyone Buda Glimt related in your team because they're not going to do as well.
Yeah, he's always been a bit of
bad advice, but there was some decent advice. Actually, I didn't have a good start. That was my problem with fantasy last year. So I'm hoping to be a bit more out of the blocks quickly for 2021. But yes, we are indeed going to move on to Swedish football, and we've got matches, proper competitive matches have been going on in the Swedish Cup. Where we're going to start, there was a big shock, wasn't there, Jonathan? Are you going to tell everyone about that?
Yes, actual games of football played out on the actual pitches are back. We didn't have to wait till so long this time. Remember last year we were just about to enter the pandemic, and there was a lot of uncertainty around. But we things are ticking along in Sweden at the moment, and we've had a nice week of Svenska Cupen, Swedish Cup. I've been catching some of the games that I was able to catch, and of course the first place to start is a huge shock, really. Malmo, who for all their success in recent years, hasn't really been a cup for them in the last sort of 20 to 30 years. Haven't won the Swedish Cup since 1989, and didn't make the best of starts. They lost at home to a team in the Superettan. So the champions have got off to a really poor start there. Västerås were the team that beat them. Västerås are famous for being the team that from which Victor Lindelof of Manchester United, he came through their academy, I believe. So really, really big shock there in Malmo's case. And there was a few other, upsets that kind of caught my eye. I had my eye on one or two games which went to form, but I didn't see the Malmo game, I'll be honest. But any time the champions lose is a pretty big shock.
Yeah, there's always seems to be a few shocks in this cup, and remember, it's only the top team from each group goes through. So if Västerås managed to pick up another 4 points, that's it. Malmo, nothing they can do about it. But I mean, this was a big shot. 1 to 5 favourites. Malmo were. Västerås were a 13-1 shot with the bookmakers. So that was a shock. I mean, there was a couple of other results that you are Helsingborg.
Yeah, I mean, I had my in the Helsingborg game, and they drew. They were lucky, had a bit of a lucky escape at IK Gautioid. There's another lowly club, not even in the second division, so they really did struggle.
Helsingborg were 1 to 10 favourites. I mean, this is Gautioid were 20-1 to win. I mean, it ended a draw, but I mean, geez, this is unbelievable for Helsingborg.
Yeah, and they really laboured, and one of the things with the Swedish Cup, there's not really fans, but there's a couple of. It's almost played in mini stadiums where the fans are kind of just parked behind the kind of one of those sort of corrugated iron fences that are up around the pitch. So you do have a small congregation, but nothing major. But yeah, Helsingborg really toiled for quite a while, and eventually they were able to get out of it thanks to Max Svensson, who I'm shocked he's still in Superettan at this moment in time. Obviously, Helsingborg got relegated, currently in the middle of a rebuild phase, and we'll see where it goes. But they really did struggle in this match, and I know it's probably a bit of ring rust, and they've lost quite a few players in this window. I thought Ravi Tsuka played well at the back for Helsingborg. I think he could be one to watch, and I'll be quite surprised if he maybe doesn't even get a move to Allsvenskan. But it was left to Max Svensson who scored the equaliser in the second half. It was a nice goal, showed his quality really, just that little bit of extra class that separated them from a humbling defeat. And I think Helsingborg are going to maybe have troubles keeping him. Anthony van den Herk as well, who, I talked about last season, did a sort of analysis video on him. He's still at the club, despite a lot of interest from bigger teams in Allsvenskan. Helsingborg are kind of holding out for a fee there that's acceptable to them. But he nearly scored the winner, Van den Herk, with a lovely overhead kick. But in the end, it wasn't really, probably wouldn't have been deserved. I think a point apiece was probably about a fair result. So Gautioid really did well to hold their own.
There's some real brutal groups actually here. For example, Norrköping and IFK Göteborg are in the same one, along with Sundsvall. We've got Hammarby and AIK in the same group, which I find staggering. There's some brutal groups, like you say. There was actually a 4-3 win there for IFK Göteborg against a team called Sandvikens. So they managed to squeeze through that one. Some other notable results: Östersunds with a 3-0 win against Landskrona. Them and Mjällby are at the top of their group number 5. DIF with a win, a tight one. And in the same group, Kalmar have lost. Kalmar have lost to Umeå. That's Brian Claerhaut's old team, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a bit of a big shock. Brian's now moved on to GIF Sundsvall, actually. He's the assistant coach there. So we wish Brian good luck this season. Sticking up he's gone back to the north. He's still in the north, of course, with the mayor who's there. And yeah, I mean, I caught half of the Djurgården game. They looked pretty solid. I thought they had one or two sort of standout performers that looked quite good. I thought Magnus Eriksson looked okay, and Chilufya looked sort of fairly lively in the first half. But yeah, I mean, Ike Braga probably wasn't too big a competition. Obviously, Djurgården in that big stadium there with no fans. We await the return of those sort of big clubs with their big fan bases. But yeah, they managed to grind out a win. And the other game I caught a little bit of was the Ostersunds game, a fairly comfortable win at Landskrona Boys in the end, and Blair Turger, who scored 2. Now he's started to raise quite a bit of interest from bigger clubs now. There's whispers going around at the moment that AIK are looking at the Englishman, who of course used to play non-league football, so in England, used to play for Maidstone United. So he's really, Ostersunds are in a bit of a crisis. We probably talk about them in the weeks to come. Obviously, they have the transfer embargo, and they're still really a bit of a mess of a club all round. Maybe they could be considered relegation candidates this season, but they managed to make relatively light work of Landskrona. And Turgut, let's see what happens, because I think he scored 7 goals last season, roughly, and he's starting to raise a few eyebrows from maybe bigger clubs, and wouldn't surprise me if they do target him, because he is a decent player.
Yeah, this Swedish Cup, just before we move on, the format for those who don't know what it is, 4 teams in each group, and there's 8 groups. Just the top team qualifies for the quarterfinals. So it's a bit brutal, there's no lucky losers or anything in here. We're going to talk about transfers in a minute, Jonathan, but before we do, just briefly, how important is this Swedish Cup to teams? And I mean, does some take it seriously? Does everyone take it seriously, or what?
No, you sort of get a mixture, and often it really depends, Steve, on the it really depends on the squads, I think, and how far they are in their recruitment. Because sometimes you get teams who are kind of haven't really even begun anything in terms of their transfers, and sometimes you get clubs who have already done their business in December and January, and they go into it and they're really ready. It's often used as a sort of preparation for the season, and because it's played out, half of it's played out in pre-season. You play through the group stages, and then the latter rounds are played when the season begins. The semi-finals and the final played sort of during the season. So it's kind of almost like if you stumble your way through the group stage, then next thing you know, you start looking at, okay, maybe we can win this. And of course, don't forget, it offers a ticket to Europe. So the teams who do take it seriously, EF Göteborg won it last season, and they're going to be in the Europa League, so or the Conference League as it was called now. So it does have a nice little, what's the carrot at the end of the stick, if you can take it seriously. If I was sort of in charge of a club and approaching it, I guess the blueprint would be to have your business done early. If you're a Kalmar or a Norrköping, in my opinion, I know obviously it's difficult to dictate the window, so you're restricted. You only have so much control over that to a certain extent. But if you can get your business done, early Jan, maybe mid Jan, get a couple of friendlies in and really take it seriously, you're only a couple of wins away from getting into that knockout stage, and then the next thing quarters, semis, and final. So I'd always look at, if I was a team like Kalmar or Norrköping, you've got a potential route to Europe there through the back door. So I think I would always take it seriously if it was me. It's a bit like in England, isn't it? I can't for the life of me understand why Burnley, for example, played a reserve team in the FA Cup the other day. It just find it absolutely bizarre. Surely you'd want to focus on that and try and get as far as you can. But obviously I'm not involved in it, so it's I'm sure there's other circumstances behind it. But yeah, certainly I think that it should be looked upon as a competition to try and win. I think EFCO had the right approach last season, and really it's kind of saved them, because EFCO have got a lot of financial problems, and the European football could well give them a lot of money that they may need in terms of prize money. So yeah, it's a good little competition, but it isn't really, at this stage of it, it's not really taken hugely seriously. It's not huge crowds or anything. I remember going out to some of the games earlier, and when I was out there, and it wasn't, the attendances are quite small. It's not really hugely looked upon in terms of people wanting to go to the games earlier at this point in time, partly because it's absolutely freezing cold maybe, but yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for any club who just wants to keep an eye maybe to make it as far as they can.
Yeah, I would agree totally. I'm surprised that some don't take it seriously, although I guess there's certain teams who are a bit behind with their transfers. I mean, Kalmar, they've not got the Brazilian yet, have they? So that's going to impact them. But the final's usually taking place around about 7 or 8 match days in, isn't it? Into the league, which is around about May, maybe June, something like that, off the top of my head anyway. But
yeah, it is.
Yeah, we'll just move on to a couple of transfers that you're interested in talking about, John.
Yeah, and just to confirm for you there, they haven't actually announced the quarterfinal dates yet, but the last group stages take place in end of March. It's usually kind of early to mid-season. You get after the first 1 or 2 fixtures, maybe you get the games. So we'll see how it goes. And there's a few fixtures. A few transfers I wanted to talk about. First one is Dalejo Irandust. There's been some interesting developments there, which may interest you, Steve, as a French football fan.
Yeah, he was strongly linked to Toulouse, wasn't he? But things went wrong.
Yeah, basically, he didn't necessarily fail a medical, but he didn't pass a medical, from what I understand. The 2 clubs agreed a fee. There was a lot of negotiations between it because Beko Häcken are clearly trying to get as much money as they can for what is a star player, Irandust, for many years. Talked about him a lot. He made our team of the season, Allsvenskan Nordic Pod team of the season combined with Elite Serien. And, he made my team of the season anyway. And, Toulouse eventually agreed a fee. There was a lot of other clubs interested. I think Willem II, or however you pronounce it, in the Eredivisie as well. And 1 or 2 other clubs, I think Groningen had a look. But Toulouse managed to get the fee agreed. He went out there. He travelled to France. He had a look around, did his medical, and they found an injury problem, and it requires an operation. Now, rather than complete the transfer, which, from what I understand, Toulouse were like, well, we'll sign you anyway. But from what I can understand, Dalejo Irandust said, no, I'm all right, and I'm going to go back to Sweden. So he went back to Sweden, and he's now, I think the deal's off pretty much because he's agreed to have an operation. And he's going to be out for about the first 6 weeks or so of the season from the early reports. So he's gone from pretty much guaranteed move to Toulouse to, going to miss the first sort of 6 weeks of Allsvenskan. So not entirely sure the mechanics of what happened there. If he just didn't fancy it, or maybe took a little bit of offence to the thought that he'd failed the medical, or maybe just didn't really like what he saw at Toulouse. But yeah, it's he's back in Gothenburg now, and I believe he'll be out for some time. So watch this space, I guess, of see how quickly he can get fit, and if he manages to get another move, or if Toulouse even maybe decide to revisit that situation.
This is starting to become the Toulouse football podcast, isn't it? We've been talking more about them than some of the clubs in Scandinavia recently. They seem to be raiding. I mean, they've been raiding Sweden, haven't they? They got Pettersson from Norrköping. They went in for Irandust there. Clearly, they've got someone operating up there in Sweden, and they're looking for cheap bargains who they can develop. And I can tell you now, Toulouse are a club under big pressure to gain an immediate return back up to Liga in France, and they had a very bad start to the year. Then they had an unbelievable unbeaten run, and then they started to bottle it again recently. And with 12 games to go, they're in the mix to go up. And I say a club that's under a lot of pressure to bounce back straight away. So, but it's interesting to me that certain teams are starting to really target Scandinavia for these talented players at a cheap price.
Yeah, well, it's not me who's sending the reports to them, so that's for sure. But I've been looking through our followers list to see if there's anyone from Toulouse following us, because I know for a fact we've got a lot of followers within the game, and I've seen teams sign players, and many of them sometimes you find out that they've been following us. So maybe to get a second opinion. So if you're listening, say hello. You know what I mean? You can always free to DM us and ask for our opinion, or even if you want to sort of talk to us about hiring us. So shameless plug there. But of course, yeah. Toulouse are not the only team looking at Sweden. Groningen have signed a couple of players from there, and of course, it's a market that's becoming more and more attractive. I don't know if you'll have seen it, Steve, but Alexander Isak scored a hat-trick for Real Sociedad at the weekend. He didn't really play well against Manchester United, the Swedish youngster, but he came from Oikor, went to Dortmund, and that's obviously going to increase the visibility of the league. People looking for bargains like him. You've got Jesper Karlsson, who's gone to AZ Alkmaar and is flying from Elfsborg. He's done really well out there so far. And then obviously you've got the likes of Erling Braut Haaland in your region, isn't it? Who's gone on. So, people are waking up to the talent that's here. That's part of the reason we started this podcast, isn't it? Because we realise it's an exciting league, and there's a nice level of football to be watched and to be seen. And I think there's a few other transfers that we're going to come on to now, because at the moment there's definitely a trend of players sort of moving on quite early, but then there is the talent there to sort of replace them at these clubs.
Now, Icor have signed, have had an addition this week, haven't they? Who's that?
Yeah, and this sort of follows on from my point really. What I was saying, I don't know if anyone who listened to the podcast last week may have heard me mention this, but there is a growing trend at the moment that I identified in the early transfers, and that is clubs from Allsvenskan dipping into the lower leagues. Now it's always been the case, but I think this season more than ever it seems to be becoming a real, noticeable sort of trend. And again, it happened this week. Today the announcement that Oikor have completed the signing of an exciting youngster called Lucas Forsberg. Now he's a 17-year-old right back. He was previously at Sollentuna, so again in the third tier. There's an interesting backstory there because Sollentuna tweeted, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago from their account, or a year or so ago, saying, any European club who wants to sign Lucas Forsberg, DM us. So openly touting out their players. They obviously said that he's a big talent of theirs. And, they obviously thought he was going to go on to big things. And he has gone on to big things because he's moved to Oikor, a huge club in that country. And the deal, I don't know the exact financials behind the deal, but he's a 17-year-old right back, born in 2003, which, how do you feel, Steve? Born, I can remember Man United winning the 2002-3 title. So, he was even born, I think, by the time that celebration took place.
I did my GCSEs in 2003.
There you go. So, but he looks good from the clips I've seen. I watch a bit of third tier football when I can, but not a huge amount. But from the video that I've seen, thanks to Wire Scout, our partners, he's a right back who can cross the ball well. I like it. I like his ability on the ball. He can cross it. He's got a decent shot on him as well. He's got 1 or 2 goals for Sollentuna that were really high quality. Obviously, a modern right back, gets up and down the pitch. He can also play on the other side. Played a couple of games on the left hand side. And although he's only sort of just played a handful of games in his career, Oikor have clearly seen enough to bring him in. He played 20 games, I think, last season for Sollentuna, and that's obviously enough to attract Oikor. So, yeah, I mean, this like I say, there's a wider trend here. There's been a lot of clubs picking up third tier players. I mentioned Ekin Bullet. He'll be one to watch in Sirius this season. He was at I can't remember exactly the name of the club he was at, so that escapes me at this moment in time. But he came from the third tier. Forsberg as well, obviously, some from Sollentuna. And I just mentioned to you there in that part 1 in Norway, Brann signing Munga Simba. Now, this is a player I really, really liked, actually. I had my eye on him as a player that I think he could go on. So I'm not surprised that he's headed off to Brann. I think statistically he was one of the best players in the third tier last season. He really pacey, exciting looking wide player, really good dribbler. So I'm not surprised to see him. It was only by chance that I just checked Brann's transfers there, but I'm not surprised to see him get a move to a fairly big club. So I think he'll be one to keep an eye on in Norway. He's only born in 2000, so he's 20 going on 21. But this trend is an emerging one. There's a lot of talent in those lower leagues, and I think the motivations are partly financial, as I said. I think partly because they don't have the money to maybe buy these big name players, the 28, 29-year-olds who usually return to Scandinavia maybe after their careers abroad. Maybe the money's not there to pay those fees for those kind of players. So they're looking to the younger talents that they can sort of develop and sell on. And Lucas Forsberg's just another one. And there's a lot of excitement about him at Oikor. Fans that seem to be quite happy with that signing. So we'll keep an eye out for him. And obviously with Oikor, just before I wrap up, but they've got a pretty growing pool of young talents, haven't they? Oikor, they've got the likes of Thomas Stranegard as well. Obviously they lost Powers Abraham, but they've still got Eric Carl, Robin Teehee, who we talked about last year on Y Scout, Bilal Hussein. So it's a quite a young team there that Bartosz Grzelak has got at Oikor, and it continues to get younger and younger. Tom Stranegard as well, possibly the youngest looking 18-year-old I think I've ever seen. He looks like something out of a Disney cartoon character, like a really, really boyish face. But there's quite a few young talents there at Oikor that are emerging, and I'm sure we'll talk about them in the months to come.
It sounds encouraging for them. I used to avoid watching their matches because you just knew what was going to happen. A 0-0 or a 1-0, it was never going to be particularly exciting. But now maybe some young talent, new direction. All the Stockholm clubs look quite interesting at the moment, I must say. Yeah, we're actually going to talk about a player who's played for ICOR before now. Simon Tern has moved to AFK Göteborg from Norrköping. This is actually a player who has got 4 Swedish caps in his career. So interesting signing. It looks a good one on the face of things to me.
Yeah, and there's he's a bit of a veteran. One of those players who's got a big reputation. And he's played for. Well, I think there's a statistic. I don't know if this is accurate, but I think there's a rumor that or maybe I'm not sure if anyone will correct me, but I think he's played for 4 of the biggest teams in the country, which is I don't think many players have ever done that. He's played for Malmo, played for ICOR, played for Norrköping, and now he will have played for. He's joined AFK Göteborg, and also he's played for Helsingborg in the past. And I don't know if many players have ever played for all 4 of those teams, in their career. So, this is a player he did move to Heerenveen for a while. He did move out of the league, but came back. Did okay last season. 24 appearances, 2 goals. It probably wasn't his best year, if we're being honest. He's had better seasons scoring wise, certainly. But kind of what you're going to get from Tony. He's a decent sort of midfield player. Hard worker, gives it his all. Quality wise, one of the better midfielders in that at that level. So I think, from a course point of view, they want someone like him to come in and shore up that midfield, because their midfield at times was very porous last season. It was very kind of easy to play through. I often found with EF Core, they were just one ball could take them out really at times, and I think they need a bit more midfield solidity. Obviously, we know what's happened at Norrköping, that they're in a bit of a crisis. It's another player to leave, but I think there's a bit of excitement there at EF Core about this signing. So good luck to Turn, and you'll see how it goes.
Now, the next point of order we've got, I'm not actually sure exactly what this is. I think you might fill me in. It's simply listed down on our itinerary as who to support. Now, is this you going to give some suggestions to listeners about who they should be, what clubs they should maybe go in for in Sweden?
Yeah, well, you like to sometimes throw me a bit of a curveball on these podcasts, Steve. So I thought, why not throw you a bit of a curveball for once? But you're bang on. You're a smart guy, and you've read that one correctly. We had a listener question. I'm going to try and find it now. We're not doing listener questions this week, but I just thought there was one that randomly popped up in my inbox this morning or yesterday, was it? And I thought I'd give it a bit of airtime. It was from a guy called Danny O'Brien. Thank you very much, Danny. And he just tweeted us randomly yesterday, and he said, another podcast to add to the list. It's great fun to hear more about leagues that don't get much exposure. Which club would you recommend for a newbie to Swedish football to follow at JF Football? So I think Danny's maybe listened to our first episode last week, and he's popped in with a question. Now, I asked him who he supports, and I was very happy to hear him say Manchester United. He said United, but then everyone knows who United are, so that he did follow up with a Manchester United, but I know who United are. So although you might not like that, being a Leeds United fan, Steve.
I'm not actually. I'll tell you, don't like that is Newcastle fans. They hate that.
Yeah, they do. They do. And Sheffield United as well. I think they don't like it. But I thought I'd just touch on it very quickly to see who we should get him to support. Because if we can get some more interest in the league, then it's always a positive thing, isn't it? So I had a little think, Danny O'Brien. And so if you're listening to this, and I thought about Man United and what team is kind of similar to United.
Predict who I think you'll suggest.
Yeah, predict. You can predict.
This is going to be an Allsvenskan team, right?
Yeah, he wants to know who to follow this season in Allsvenskan.
I bet you choose Hammarby for him.
Who do you think is the Manchester United of Allsvenskan?
Oh, the Manchester United of Sweden.
Well, no, you can predict who you think I'll say he should support, but you can also predict.
I predict that you're going to say Hammarby.
Hammarby, well, I'd like to say you're right, but unfortunately you're wrong. You're wrong.
Elfsborg, then.
They're definitely not Elfsborg. I think the Manchester United of Sweden. I'd be interested to open this up to listeners. So please tweet us at Nordic Footpod and let us know who you think. And also, of course, we still got our Patreon to promote at some point in the show. Patreon.com/Nordic Football Podcast, I think it is. But yeah, Danny, I think I'm going to recommend that you want to support Manchester United. You want a team that wins, right? You want a team with a proud history. Maybe fallen on sort of hard times of late, but traditionally, a giant of the game. obviously the most successful domestic team in terms of league titles. So I had a little think about this, and they've had one or two good managers in the past and one or two or maybe bad managers. And I've come up with probably the team, that you should support. And I think you've got two choices here, really. And it's either going to be Malmo, I'm going to say, or it's going to be IFK Göteborg. Those are the two teams I'm gonna say that you should consider supporting. Now, some people might ask me why. Why am I saying that? Well, Swedish titles all time. You've got Malmo 21. So they are the most successful. So if you're looking literally just at success, then it would be Malmo. Manchester United with 20 league titles in England. But then you've got IFK Göteborg as well with 18, and obviously IFK Göteborg have got that European success as well. Don't forget, they've won European honours. So although Malmo are the only club from the Nordic region to reach the final of the European Cup, which is known as the Champions League now, of course, Malmo in 1979 made it all the way, lost to Brian Clough Nottingham Forest. So they do have that honour of being the only team to make it to that final of that competition in particular. But it is IFK who have success on the Swedish stage in terms of UEFA European competitions, and they of course won the UEFA Cup. So they're a big club, and they've fallen in. Coincidentally, they've also fallen on hard times in the last sort of 10 or so years. Things haven't gone quite as well for them. As last league title was 2007, and last Manchester United league title 2013. So, maybe if you were thinking about a team, it could be them. So, yeah, take your pick, flip a coin. Guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. Any listeners who want to predict who is the Manchester United of Sweden, who should they support, who's the Liverpool of Sweden, maybe, who's the Everton of Sweden. It was quite an interesting debate, I think. But, yeah, IFK have won the UEFA Cup twice in 1982 and 1987. So they've got a proud European history, similar to Manchester United, of course, have won the Champions League 3 times in their history. So there you go, Danny. There's my little summary for you, and I'd love to hear what listeners think as well. And please don't be offended if you don't like Manchester United, or if you don't like Malmo, or if you don't like AFK, then let us know why and who you think should be supported.
I would say for my suggestion for Norway would be a toss-up between Rosenborg or Molde. Maybe Molde because of the links with Solskjaer, perhaps. But if you, in terms of success, it's obviously Rosenborg with 26 titles down the years. So the next nearest is actually Fredrikstad with 9, and Fredrikstad are in the 3rd tier of Norwegian football. 2nd tier now. Sorry, they got promoted. Fredrikstad back in the Obos. So yeah, that would be my 2 suggestions there. IFK Göteborg, really interesting club. They do intrigue me, that side. It's such a fallen giant, aren't they? You feel like they should be up there challenging for titles. But interesting stuff, John. And I think that's pretty much it for this episode, isn't it? Oh, there's one little extra thing that I need to talk about, actually.
Well, just quickly as well, before you wrap up there, I personally wouldn't have Molde as the Manchester United of Norway, in my opinion. I think they don't have that history, do they? As far as I'm aware.
The only reason I was suggesting it, I wasn't suggesting them as the Manchester United of Norway, but for someone, a Man United fan, might want to support Molde because of the leagues, that's all.
No, I think them. Yeah, well, no, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, no, I can see your rationale. But and also just quickly before I wrap up, because it might interest any listeners as well to this. I had a little look at the all-time league tables for Allsvenskan, just to sort of give a bit more context to the argument. And I'm just going to name you the top 5 most successful teams. This is just in terms of points accumulated in the history of Swedish football. And so in 5th place, we have a team that I know you're going to like, Steve. I know you're going to like pointing the finger here. Can you guess who's in 5th place all-time table?
5th time all-time?
77 seasons in Allsvenskan.
Hammarby?
In the top division? Nope, it is Elfsborg.
Really?
5th in the all-time table.
Good Lord. 2,754
points. 4th in the all-time table with 80 seasons in the top division. Do you want to have a little guess?
I'll go with IK there.
Wrong again. It is Norrköping.
Would never have guessed them.
Yeah, Norrköping with 3,011 points. Hammarby, by the way, are Hammarby are 12th, below Gais. Third place with 92 seasons in the top division.
That's got to be AIK or Jorgen, surely.
Yep, it's AIK with 3,458 points. 3,458. Second place with 88 seasons in the top division and 1,000 wins exactly.
IFK?
Bang on. 1,000 wins, 512 draws, 609 defeats, 3,512 points. But in the lead, as you're probably going to be able to guess, with 85 seasons, so not as many as AIK or IFK, but the most points. Can you name it, Steve? I'll let you name it.
Well, that'll be Malmo, won't it?
Malmo FF, and that is why I have them as the Manchester United of Sweden with 3,637 points and the current reigning champions. So there you go. There's our history lesson for today. And I'll just read you the top 10, just that anyone who might be interested in this little history lesson. Hammarby not even in the top 10. You might like to know. Beck or Hacken 17th, so they're making their way up the table, but they're nowhere near it. But yeah, I'll read you you got Ostersund's in 33rd, so they're way down there. Mjällby 28th. So we're just looking at the Kalmar 13th. But the top 10, you've got Örebro in the all-time points lists, Halmstad, who have just been newly promoted this season. So they'll be interesting to watch this year. Bit of a traditional, regular team in that level. Even though they've only had 54 seasons at the top division, they've always accumulated quite a lot of points. Then you've got Ågret in 8th, always in the second tier. Djurgården 7th, Helsingborg in 6th. So half those teams aren't even in the league this season. So interesting little history lesson for everyone. Yeah,
it is. And just before we finish the episode, I want to talk about the Suomen Cup in Finland. I only feel like I want to talk more about the Finnish league this year. I really do. It's another one of my sort of New Year's resolutions, actually. Suomen Cup is pretty much the group stage is nearly done, and there's 6 groups in. What they do, they split. 3 of the groups contain Veikkausliiga teams, and 3 of them contain teams from the second tier. So you're always going to get a mixture of top and second division sides in the knockout rounds. And at the moment, it looks like HIFK have qualified, along with it's going to be Lahti or HJK Helsinki from Group A. Inter Turkey 100% record. They are going to be through to the next round. Honka as well. They are in. And then you've got teams like KUPS and SJK. SJK now managed by ex-Tromsø boss, Simo Valakari. He's made it through the knockout rounds. And then you've got teams from the second tier. I'm not really going to talk about them. But I have occasionally watched some of these matches from the Suomen Cup. They're played indoor, and there's some very interesting arenas. Very weird watching these matches. But it's good to see that the Veikkausliiga doesn't start until the 10th of April, which actually isn't too much longer after Sweden and Norway this season. But I'm determined to keep my eye on this league a bit more in 2021, and as I say, especially going to keep my eye on SJK because Valakari to coach has always interested me.
Yeah, and we did have an interview with a manager who was out there at the time, didn't we? Tor Todderson. He's no longer at HIFK, I believe, but he joined us to talk about it. I think it was 2 years ago now. Listen, I'm going to be totally honest with you. Those games in those indoor arenas, they remind me of PE matches, and they make me shiver. Just looking at them, to be honest. I mean, it's not really. There's no spectators in this cup, is there? So, you asked me about the relevance of the Swedish Cup. What's the importance of the Finnish Cup? Is it taken seriously? Is there a backdoor to Europe? Is it a big competition, or is it a glorified sort of indoor kickabout after a PE match?
I've actually done Simo Valakari a disservice. He's actually at KUPS now. SJK was his former club, and KUPS are 100% record. So, great start for Simo Valakari. They're actually in the same group as his old club there. But as far as I'm aware, this cup is taken relatively seriously. So, again, it's a way to silverware, isn't it? And I think there's some half decent teams in Finland, and it's a league which I know quite a lot of people are interested in. So I'm determined to keep my eye on it, like I say, and this cup is nearing the end of its group stage now. With just a couple of matches left to be played. HJK Helsinki, if they're not careful, I mean, they should win their final match against a side that's got no points. But there's a danger they could still get knocked out if they lost. But that would be quite a shock. But it looks like most of the big boys are going to be in the next round.
Yeah, and HJK won the league last season. And the current champions, they are the current champions of the Finnish Cup, aren't they? They beat Inter Turku in the final. So, and I think, is there a place in Europe? I think there is. The winner will qualify for the Conference League.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to do a sort of mini breakdown on the Conference League, aren't we, at some point, Steve? Because it's definitely relevant for our league here.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see how that pans out. I mean, I can't claim to know anything about Finnish football, I'll be honest, but you have been raising the Suomen Cup to me, so maybe I'm gonna have to tune in for some of these games. Do you have a team you follow?
I do like IFK Mariehamn. I think I mentioned this on the last episode. They're an island team from on the southwest coast of Finland. They've always intrigued me. And of the bigger boys, it used to be a club, I don't think they're actually in the top flight anymore, called ROPS, Rovaniemi. I don't think they're even in the top flight anymore. But IFK Mariehamn, they're going to be in the team I prefer in the Vikas Liga anyway. There's some interesting names, Honka, KUPS.
I'm looking at some of the team names, and there's what's
in New Zealand dance, isn't it?
There's a team called Jippo. Back in the day, when I was a kid, it was a sort of phrase for a bit of a bum, wasn't it?
Yes.
Founded in 2001, Jippo.
So there's some very interesting names up there. They like to keep it short and sweet, don't they? They don't complicate things.
Yeah.
It's not like Iceland.
What's it still about? They're in the cup. But fair enough. It looks like there's not been many games played, is there?
Yeah, they only play each other once, but I say, watch this space. I will be talking a bit more about Finnish football on the Nordic Football Podcast this season. Maybe even get a guest or two in from over there just to keep things interesting.
Yeah, well, we have been discussing potential guests, and we do have some special guests for you in the coming weeks. I've told Steve to go and dig through his book of contacts, which I don't think he's done yet, to be honest. Otherwise, we may have had a guest on this week's show. Yes,
I'll be digging into them and hopefully get some good guests on for this season.
But yeah, no, we've got a few targets, let's put it that way, that we've identified that we'd like to maybe have a word with before the season begins across Norway and Sweden. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you some interesting guests as we always do on the Nordic Football Podcast. And of course, you can always dip into our archives. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And in the archives, if you just scroll through, you'll see a whole plethora of big names in the league, including, of course, former Barrow FC manager Michael Jolly, who was just recently at Barrow in League Two. Ian Birchinall, of course, as well, and Simo Valakari, you just mentioned there, he's been on the show. Sean Constable, Axel Kjell. There's so many we could be here for quite a long time.
I'm sure I saw Michael Jolly got sacked by Barrow recently.
He did indeed, the former AFC Eskilstuna manager. And of course, as we mentioned, Asman Bjorkan, who's the sporting director at Buda Glimt. So we've had a good little track record in the past. There's so many names I can't even think of them all. But the plan for this season is we've got a few names on a list that we'd like to keep an eye on for this season. There's a few interesting managers in the leagues at this moment in time, and so certainly hit the subscribe button. Like I say, follow us on Twitter at Nordic Footpod. We will have maybe some players as well on the show in the coming season. So I think that's all we've got time for in this episode. Finnish Cup. If anyone knows anything about the Finnish Cup, please tweet us at Nordic Footpod. You can tweet Steve at Meatman Soccer. He's the man for the Suomen Cup at least. Also, he claims that I want him to maybe log in when he next time is watching these matches, if he really is doing it, or if he's just saying it for clout. But and you can obviously follow me as well on Twitter at JF Football. FUTBOL. I'll probably be watching more of the Svenska Cupen in the coming weeks, and keep an eye on the third division of Sweden as well for whoever the big clubs are going to sign next. But it's been a good show, Steve. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and maybe see you in another week.
Yeah, very much enjoyed it, and we'll be back again soon, I think, Jonathan. So from this particular edition, it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from me, Jonathan Fadugba. Enjoy your week, guys, and we will be back to review the Molde Hoffenheim game and see if Molde can make it to the last 16 of the Europa League. That would be some achievement, wouldn't it? So for now, goodbye from us.